Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm going to make a little video for you today. It come from a Facebook post I just finished, and it took me a long time to compile this and to build it. And basically, what I was thinking is, I was thinking back on how many murders, missing persons, and suspicious deaths that I've talked about on my YouTube channel, and that I believe that may be connected with this crime ring that's connected with the underground homes and all the many other homes across America that are rigged like this one, where the owners are reporting people in the attic. It's very clearly a nationwide organized crime ring. There's no doubt about that, and I believe there's multiple murders, and so that's what this going to be. This is kind of a long read here. I'm going to show you, just starting at the beginning. It says murders, missing, and suspicious death. One Sunday night, long ago, not long after I'd survived being ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut, I randomly opened up my Bible to Isaiah 26:21 and read, "The earth shall disclose her blood and shall no more cover her slain." I believe there are multiple murders connected with the crime ring involved with the underground homes and the many other homes that are rigged like this one in Midland. Here are some of these fact-filled stories. And then I put a list here of just some of the ones I went through my hard drive and searched, and so this is a list, and then I have a short paragraph for each one of these. Okay, Judy McGhee, death in 1981, missing person. Rene Escobar Sanchez went missing 3 months before Mike Lawhon died. The previous owner, Mike Lawhon, his death was in '08. That was the next one down. The oil show party girl, the girl that was murdered at the oil show party, Angie told me about. Hailey Dunn, 13-year-old cheerleader, Colorado City. Matt Hyman, the attorney, landman believed to have died inside my home 2 weeks before the murder attempt. Then the attempted murder on my life was clearly premeditated. They cut my phone lines, come to my home and cut my phone lines. Absolutely premeditated. These are scary killers, are what they are. Joe Kidd, okay, that's a friend of mine's little brother. I'm going to tell you that story. Interesting information there. Cody Mercer, unsolved murder out of Odessa. I was told his murder is connected to the Hailey Dunn murder. My mom's death the month before I'm ambushed and shot, still unanswered question. I'm going to talk about that. Don Calloway, my first father-in-law's death. He died just a week or two before I was ambushed and shot. Mike Naylor was the second secret police scene arriving in my home. Took 6 years and a $2,000 reward to get him identified. Chad Simpson, he was another one of the secret police seen inside my home. His name wasn't on the police report, and he wasn't dispatched to my house. He was alleged to have murdered Sandra Simpson. She's the next one on the list, and then killed himself. Dr. Gadiselli, involved in a murder-suicide in Odessa, and I wondered if he was the doctor I seen parked in front of my house a year before that I suspected that was connected. Jakayla Salazar, alleged to be involved in prostitution, died over in Odessa. And because it's believed to be connected with prostitution, I think this is a prostitution ring, human trafficking ring, crime ring, etc. Andy Stover, guy over Lubbock from my hometown of South Mexico, and the official story is that he set his home on fire and then he shot himself, killed himself, and that makes no sense whatsoever. His girlfriend had contacted me here, and she was from Odessa. I think there might be a connection back here. It was rumors of organized crime, child indecency, and things like that. My dad, Buddy Harlan Webb, dies of cancer that doesn't run in the family, and I feel real sure that my dad had information on the crimes here. Caitlin Dennison met a guy in Reno, flew her to Midland, never been seen again, and I have a story about that. Cindy Barton, my one of my ex-wives there in Hobbs, she's the one that told me I wasn't in your freaking attic, and that's what told me somebody that home in Hobbs was rigged, and that home in Hobbs was built by my first in-laws at Calloway's. Rene Brott, she's the one that told me that she believed Hailey was killed in her house on Cloudcross Street over in Odessa, and then she dies about 6 months later and the house burns down. Crystal Lynn Hall, and that was another young girl who comes in from Pennsylvania or somewhere, meets a guy, gets a bus ticket, comes to Midland, and never seen again. Her last communications was that she was with 4 men and 4 women. Women wasn't allowed to be allowed to talk to each other, and they thought they were involved in human trafficking. So all of these, I think, have a connection, maybe back to the same crime ring. And I'm going to tell you stories about these. That's a whole bunch of deaths. I mean, it's truly incredible. Just think if it's only 10%, and I think it's probably more like 90%. It is very, very sad what's going on with our law enforcement that, I had to pay to get identified. And there's all this evidence and nothing's happening except that we have a lot of bodies, we got a lot of that. So each one of these has a story. I did that on the bottom. Okay. And we're just going to run through them. And more than almost 20 comments. So it's going to take a minute. And here, I'm going to try to hurry. Judy McGhee was last seen in May 1981 from Odessa, Texas. My friend Angie McGhee told me that the young girl murdered at the oil show party used to be married to her nephew. Okay. And here, let me say that right. Anyway, Angie, the girl that told me about the girl murdered at the oil show party, okay, was married to this lady's nephew. I want you to get that right. Charlie Franks wrote me and said that his papa poured concrete that Judy was buried under. John Hamilton told me her body is not under the concrete of the body shop buildings. It's under the cement behind Loopy's house in the old center block original shop building. I told the Odessa police where to dig. They have a map I gave them. When Loopy dies, I plan to go to his son and ask him if he wants to know where his mother is. Loopy was not going to let her take his son away from him or give her half. Okay. And so anyway, that was the guy that wrote me. So I have documentation, print screen, proof, right? This guy said that, right? And here is Judy, missing since 1981. I had just graduated high school. Has connection back here. Okay. Rene Escobar Sanchez reported missing from Odessa 3 months before Mike Lawhon died, and his body has never been found. Mike Lawhon was the previous owner of my home. A former neighbor, Marilyn DeLucci, told me that somebody else had died here before Mike did and wondered if it was Rene. Other evidence included a death smell on the west side of my yard, half-buried cut-off clothes, a huge stain on the rug in my living room, and a suspected bullet hole in the fireplace right after I moved here. I contacted Odessa Crime Stoppers 2013, suggested they come look here, and then this guy named Jesus Venegas confessed with a huge smile on his face, but no body was ever found. Brandy Bennett recently told me that Vic White was connected with Hailey, Dunn, Cody Mercer, and Rene. This is a missing persons for Rene Escobar Sanchez. Went missing 3 months before I moved here, Mike died, etc. The next one, Mike Lahn, was the 27-year-old previous owner of my home that died the week before the 2008 oil show started. Former neighbor, Marilyn DeLucci, told me twice that Mike had died in my home, but his death certificate says he died in Fort Worth. The Odessa American posted a death notice saying he died in Fort Worth, and then 4 days later posted a second death notice and changed the location of death, saying he died at his residence. Proof was found showing that the back door of this home was kicked in during the month that Mike died. His half-brother, Brian Timmis, told me about a confrontation between them with a gun prior to Mike dying, and Susan McGhee, a sister, told me that Brian was a big Kansas City Chiefs fan after seeing that I found a Kansas City Chiefs cap under the cabinet from where the trap door was and from where I'd been shot. I knew it had been left after I'd been shot. So there's Mike's obituary. Mike at 27 years old. And the two death notices from Odessa America. First one saying he died in Fort Worth, and then 4 days later they changed it, say he died at his residence, and that's confirmed what Marilyn said, So I'm fully convinced they murdered Mike here, took him to Fort Worth. Okay, that was the week before the 2008 oil show started. There gives you why. There's the reason, right? And that was the oil show parties are in the backyard. During the week of October 25th, 2010, my friend Angie McGhee, that was the week of the oil show, told me about a young girl that was murdered at a party she was going on during the Permian Basin International Oil Show. Angie was leaving my home and at those party in 5 minutes, and I know this because we talked on the phone while she drove there. I'm convinced these famous and wild parties were going on in the underground home said to be here by multiple people, and maybe the one that looks like it's in my backyard on Google Maps. Angie was afraid to report this murder and said that high-level police were also at those parties. In July 2019, I showed DHS where I believed a tunnel was located going from the Home Depot store to my home and used for those underground parties. And 2 weeks later, the ground was dug up and concrete was poured there. But I got this on video. 2 weeks after that viral video, U.S. Congressman Mike Calloway announces his retirement. Come to find out his brother-in-law used to live across the street from my home. 3 months later, Secretary of DHS Kevin McClellan resigns, and 6 days later, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigns. Perry was governor of Texas when the oil show party murders happened. The remains of a 14 to 21-year-old black girl was found outside of Midland in 2013. It looks like nobody's trying to solve her murder, so I believe she's the one from the oil show party murder. See, if they were trying to solve a murder, they had uncovered the underground homes, and they're not doing that. So they're trying to cover up our murder, as far as I'm concerned. And what I really believe is these multi-billion-dollar oil companies were leaning on people like Perry, who used to be governor of Texas and was Secretary of Energy, saying, you need to cover that up for us. It's not good on the stock price. And then so they went and poured concrete, got caught on camera. Anyways, Hailey Dunn, the next one, is a famous missing murdered child, 13-year-old, from Colorado City, Texas, 80 miles from Midland. She was reported missing 2 months after the 2010 oil show parties, which I suspected that her stripper mom had taken her to. On December 14, 2013, I wrote the DOJ and suggested they send somebody here to look in the underground homes, and 2 days later her remains were found outside of Scurry County. She had been missing for over 2 years when this happened. I've now documented around 10 people via recordings or screenshots that have stated Hailey was killed in Odessa. This includes who, where, when, and how. There's an extremely obvious cover-up going on with the murder of Hailey Dunn. Okay. Matt Hyman was a 33-year-old landman attorney, believed to have been electrocuted in my hallway 2 weeks before the murder attempt. If his friends that had came with him into my home from the underground trap door would have called for an ambulance, he might have been alive now, but it looks like they were more worried about being arrested for the home invasion felony. They were involved when this happened. They were involved in committing when this happened. 2 of his friends, Chris Mertz and Brian Hillman, later threatened me in desperate attempts to stop me from asking questions about his death. Hillman married the widow and only supposed witness to Matt's death at 33 years old of a surprise heart attack nobody knew he had. Okay. Heart failure, Electricity stops the heart. During the week of October 25th, 2010, my friend Angie McGhee told me about a young girl who was murdered at a party going on. She was at during the Permian Basin International Oil Show. Did I read that already? Okay. It looks like the same one. Yes, I've already read that. A different picture here. I was shot by surprise. And basically this is, I think what this was, a copy and pasted the wrong story, but that was basically, I reported to the DEA a suspected tunnel January 2012. They didn't look, and 2 weeks later I'm ambushed and shot by somebody under my home. Back then I didn't have any evidence, but now I have lots of evidence. I have absolute proof showing I wasn't shot in my home. Almost 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic. I was reporting people in the attic at the time. And then multiple people documented saying underground homes and tunnels are here, It's just an absurd, blatant, cover-up once again. Joe Kidd is the younger brother friend, a married kid. Okay, my friend, married kid Partridge. Joe died in Hobbs in May 2013 of a supposed suicide. Mary told me that Joe's girlfriend had told him that she would have him whacked, and that's a guy that she had tried to hire, and the guy that she tried to hire to do it was willing to testify to this. It's my understanding that Joe's girlfriend was Stacy Young from here in Midland, who is a granddaughter of Zor Young from Hobbs. She had asked to come live with me not long after I'd survived the murder attempt, but I told her no, as I don't know her. I suspected that she knew something about the crimes here. Mary also said that then some neighbors had said they had saw the intruder on the house on Simmons Street where her brother had died. They ruled it a suicide, but she's saying, here's the, he had filed this restraining order. This girlfriend threatened to have him whacked, right? And then here's, a guy willing to testify that, to this, and the neighbors willing to testify, but regardless, it was still ruled a suicide over in Hobbs. It's another suspected murder. Next one's Cody Mercer's unsolved murder out of Odessa, Texas, and Brenda Dunn told me that his murder was connected with the murder of Hailey Dunn. She said that these recordings were filmed and the cops have the recordings. Brandy's statements about the murder tapes were confirmed by 2 other people. Jessica Hadley Lee told me that it was absolutely true and described the video as disgusting. Allison Frazier described to me the graphic video of Cody's rape and murder. Brandy Bennett said that Vic White was connected with Hailey, Cody, and Rene. Okay, so here's a picture of Cody Mercer, and here's some comments from Brandy, says there's a video of it, the cops have it. A video of what? Amesbury? Yes, it was a video of Cody Mercer's, and cops have both, okay? That's what Brandy said. And then it gets confirmed by 2 other people that watched them, okay? I think the key thing is the cops have them, and so I think they're trying. It's another murder they're trying to cover up. It seems obvious to me. My mom, Ann Webb, died the month before I was shot inside my home with my phone lines cut with still unanswered questions. I spoke to Mom about an hour before she died, and she said, "Pray for me tonight." And I said, "Sure, Mom, I pray for you every night." And she got real stern and said, "No, buddy, Wayne, I'm serious." Mom was dead an hour later. A few days after she died, I figured out that my brother and my dad had lied to me about what happened that night. I reported this to police a few weeks before the murder attempt on my life, not thinking they had anything to do with it, thinking maybe these criminals in Midland did, though. My sister-in-law, Mitzi Webb, told me, "Bud, she was going to die anyway." I said, my mouth fell open when she said that. I said, "Mitzi, we're all going to die," Yeah, I believe that when all the crimes are solved, I figure out what really happened to my mom when she died the month before the murder attempt on my life. Don Calloway died a few weeks after my mom died and right before I was ambushed and shot. He's my first father-in-law and the grandfather of my son, Josh. Don and Ann Calloway built the home in Hobbs that I lived in for 16 years that I now believe was rigged like this one in Midland and the many others across the country. They also built the one to the south of it, which they used to live in. My guess is there's a tunnel going between these 2 homes. After I survived the murder attempt, my dad married Ann Calloway, and they quit talking to me with Ann calling me crazy. That makes Don's death very suspicious to me. Okay, so just so y'all got that right here, my mom dies suspiciously the month before I'm shot. A few weeks before I'm shot, my first father-in-law, Don Calloway, dies. Then I'm ambushed and shot in a premeditated murder attempt. And then my dad marries Ann Calloway, and they quit talking to me, calling me crazy, when I have absolute proof showing this was a premeditated murder attempt. Something real fishy about that. Mike Naylor was a Midland sheriff deputy that died in the line of duty in October 2014. I found out in 2018, 4 years later, that he was one of the secret police that had been caught on camera at my home after the murder attempt on my life. I had a reward offered for his identity, which was collected by the private investigator. That was when he died. I had a reward offered for his identity. He was the second person seen arriving at my home following Martin County Sheriff John Woodward just 19 minutes after I called out. But they were not dispatched, and their names were omitted from the police reports. The question had been asked if he was murdered by some other corrupt police that were trying to hide the crimes and murders connected with the underground homes here, and they framed Higgins for it. Higgins confessed, but if he didn't, he was going to get the death penalty. It's hard to imagine a large group of police lying and tampering with evidence, but it's proven that is exactly what they did to me, and I was home and minding my own business, Only thing I did was work on my life and buy a home. They tried to kill me in this rigged home. Chad Simpson was a Midland canine police officer that alleged to murder his wife, Sandra Simpson, and then killed himself in December 2014. Their 2 babies, who are now orphans, were inside the home when this happened. I found out in 2018 that he was one of the secret police that had been caught on camera at my home after the murder attempt on my life. He was the guy seen wearing the Midland canine police jacket. His name was one of the 6 that had been illegally omitted from the long withheld police report, so he wasn't dispatched to my home. 2 days before this alleged murder-suicide, I posted his picture to my Facebook along with a story called Rape and Murder that told about the young girl murdered at the 2010 oil show party, which had police there. The question has been asked if he was murdered by other corrupt police that were trying to hide the crimes and murders connected with the underground homes here. One of his neighbors told me that the police were looking for the shooter when he got to his home that night after that murder-suicide. And so here, December 13, 2014, I post Rape and Murder, tells about the young girl at the oil show party, and I post Chad Simpson's picture. That's him and wearing a Midland canine police jacket. I just didn't know it was him because he didn't get identified for 4 years later. They were secret police, kind of like Nazi Germany, extreme criminals, the ones involved in the Holocaust. That's how I compare the Midland secret police right there. I mean, that's how dirty they are. And so here we are. and then he's alleged to murder her, his wife, and kill himself 2 days later, after I posted this picture to my Facebook. Some people have wondered if maybe Sandra read this story about the little girl being raped and murdered, recognized her husband, and asked him about it, and then he was busted, so he killed her. There's still unanswered questions, but, it's just more deaths believed to be connected. Sandra Simpson was a mother, nurse, and wife of Midland K-9 police officer Chad Simpson. And, she's kind of like me. She's a home minding her own business. She's now dead, right? She was said to have been murdered by her husband, who is now to be one of the secret police that had been caught inside my home after the murder took my life. It took 6 years, a $2,000 reward, finding that out. Many people have asked if she'd be alive today if only those corrupt police had been arrested after they were caught on camera at my home. I'm talking about the secret police, 11 of them that I had to pay to get identified. Some people have wondered if this was a double murder and that Chad and Sandra were killed to cover up what he knew about the crimes and murders connected with the underground homes. Okay, and this is right out of the news. Midland police officer shoots wife self in apparent murder-suicide. A Midland police officer that was caught on camera in a capital attempted murder in 2012 but wasn't identified. But what if he was identified? Would she be alive right now? Would them two babies have parents? If only they would have arrested them secret police instead of making the crime victims save up disability money, live under the threat of death, and try to get the police identified. And here's my PI found a witness to testify that Chad was inside my home that night. Odessa Dr. Gadiselli was murdered in a murder-suicide while being investigated for money laundering by the FBI. A year earlier, on June 24th, I took a picture of a guy parked in front of my next-door neighbor's house who I thought looked like him. This guy was driving a dark green Jaguar and looked like an older Indian doctor wearing scrubs. That home is where it's suspected tunnel entrance was at in the backyard. Okay, so that's where I was wondering if that was Gadiselli. There's a reason I took that picture. This guy was suspicious. The ex-wife had told me the secret is a group of doctors are killing people for profit. And I believe them doctors are involved or connected with the underground ops, which is connected with human trafficking, sex trafficking, and they would have to launder money, right? And Gadiselli was being investigated for laundering money by the FBI before he shot dead in a murder-suicide where you can't ask any questions. Okay. Jakayla Salazar was reported missing from Odessa in 2015. Her remains were found in 2016. Several people are now documented saying that she was connected with prostitution. So I think it's very possible her murder may have a connection to the young girl that was murdered at the underground oil show party because she didn't want to prostitute. Okay, once again, it's coming back to the prostitution crime ring. Christina Holloway here's the one telling me she was a girl I helped raise. She was on heroin, already a prostitute. We believe the guy she was dating, pimp, killed her. And I have specific, even other comments from other people that about her giving a guy a blowjob in the parking lot at this restaurant and the boss in his name, and the boss was pimping her out. I mean, I have print screens of this. Law enforcement, as far as I'm concerned, has never investigated. They're not investigating these. I don't think they're investigating any of them. Okay. Andy Stover was 45 years old in my hometown, from a hometown of Hobbs, New Mexico. His former girlfriend had contacted me on Facebook and felt like she knew something about the crimes of my home. Andy Stover's death was ruled a suicide a week after his body was found in a West Lubbock fire. Okay, so that is weird, right? Yeah, nobody sets the house on fire and then sticks a gun in their mouth and pulls the trigger. That makes no sense, right? The family released a statement saying Andrew feared for his life and warned friends and family that someone may have been hired to kill him. We do not believe that Andrew committed suicide. Andrew had openly stated to several people in the last few months that he feared for his life because of an Amarillo woman with whom he had a child within the past year, came from a family that he believed had ties to organized crime. He knew them to be violent. I wondered where Andy was at on the weekend I was ambushed and shot. Maybe he was in Midland, Buddy Harlan Webb, that's my dad, died of a cancer that doesn't run in the family while married to Ann Calloway. I felt sure that he had information about the crimes of Miles from things he had said. The ex-wife had told me about a medicine that could cause cancer in a known number of days. And it's my understanding the doctors that were killing for profit that she told me about were using this medicine. I wonder if my dad was murdered because of what he knew. Here's a picture of my dad marrying Ann Calloway. That's my first mother-in-law. Well, when that happened, then what happened? That meant that I now have a son with my stepsister. Okay, because my dad marries my first mother. mother-in-law, right? That's the grandmother of my son, and there's my brother over there. I wasn't invited to the wedding, and they quit talking to me. And then just even recently, I documented Ann Calloway calling me crazy. She's like, oh, the family's been trying to have him committed, but he won't go, crap like that, and I'm clearly 100% proven the victim of a home invasion, capital attempted murder, premeditated. These killers came to my home, cut my phone lines, and shot me by surprise. They're scary, dangerous people. Caitlin Dennison was a 19-year-old that flew from Reno to Midland in January 2018, was never seen again. My home healthcare nurse, Melissa Gibbs, told me about a wealthy guy here in Midland that flew a group of girls to Reno every year, and I suspected this was connected with sex trafficking. I felt like this guy that Melissa was telling me about was also connected with the crimes here, and maybe he knows something about the missing Nevada girl. That's what I was saying. That seems like a lead, right? Melissa Gibbs, a home health care nurse, telling me that there's a wealthy guy in Midlands flew in a group of girls to Reno every year, and I suspected he was connected with the crimes here, the underground crimes, and it was connected with sex trafficking. There's the story right there of Caitlin Dennison. Comes to Midland, never seen again. Cindy Barton, she was my ex-wife. She was actually my third ex-wife. Was the ex-wife of mine that died in October 2019. She wasn't feeling well, went to the hospital. I had just documented her telling me that she wasn't the person in the attic of my Hobbs home in 2002, which meant that somebody else had been in the attic of that home. That was the clue telling me that the Hobbs home was rigged like this one, and that home was built by my first in-laws, the Calloways. Her death was surprising, and since I believe that she had information about the crimes against me, I could see why somebody might want to silence her. I wondered if somebody at the hospital killed her. Cindy, okay? And this is Cindy right here. And this comment on Facebook, I made videos about it. Well, I got a video called Freaking Attic. She said, I never got in a freaking attic because I knew somebody had been in the attic. My daughter recognized a light on the attic and nobody had been up there. And I assumed it was Cindy all them years. And then Cindy said she wasn't in the freaking attic. And that's like, oh, that's when it started making sense. Because Cindy wasn't in the freaking attic. Somebody else was. And now I suspect that home was rigged because somebody was in the attic. Rene died on February 22nd, 2019. A few months earlier, she told me that she believed that Hailey Dunn was killed in her home at 6619 Cloudcroft in Odessa. This house later burned down. She made me promise to not mention her name because she was afraid for her life. So I emailed her messages to Midland Chief Police Seth Thurman, and then she's dead 6 months later. Tisha Brumley later told me that her niece lived down the street from Rene's house and she had seen Hailey there before she died. Okay, and so there's somebody else we could talk to about that. Here's the obituary for Melissa, and basically I've timestamped it here. This happened. It's exactly like I said. Crystal Lynn Hall took a bus to Midland, and the last anybody heard from her on October 1st, 2019. A man from Midland named Justin or Justice sent her a ticket, and she had told the father of her children that believed she was potentially going to be involved in sex trafficking, as she was with the 4 men and 4 women, and the women were not allowed to talk to each other. She sent him a picture that looked like she was in a trailer park somewhere, okay? And this is the picture of Crystal, and she just looks so much like that other girl, Caitlin, that comes to Midland, is never seen again. Crystal comes to Midland, never seen again. And here she, there is indications it's connected to sex trafficking. And that's what I think this whole thing is. I mean, it's a crime ring. It's also for-profit murder and extortion and everything. But I think primarily it's prostitution rings, what it is. But many murders, missing, and suspicious deaths here in Midland. And I mean, just think about it. Think about it if 50% is right, or 90%, or just 10%. That is a whole bunch of murders. That means we got some extremely dangerous people. And you know what? All it's going to take is exposing them underground homes, and this thing will fall over like a domino. What is wrong with our police? Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.